probably the most incredible thing is the fact that it was Bob Massie's debut. You know, a guy on debut taking 16 wickets, we certainly weren't expecting that. Unfortunately, a lot of people think that the Lord's Test was a one-off fluke, but Bob was a very good bowler. I'd played against him a bit in Shield cricket. He was a genuine swing bowler, and he knew what was happening. He was one of those guys who, you know, he later became a good coach because he knew what made the ball swing, what he had to do. We were going to play him in the first Test match, but I think he did an oblique muscle in the lead up to the first Test.
It was like someone stabbed me in the side with a knife, and I'd torn the muscle off the rib cage, and tried to bowl another ball, but just couldn't. And I was out for 3.5 weeks, so I missed a lot of preparation there, and I was unavailable for the first Test because of the injury. After having missed 3.5 weeks, we went to the practice wickets, but one side of the practice wickets was very wet. So after trying to bowl over the wicket to Ross, I went and said, "I can't bowl here, mate, I'm just slipping too much." So he said, "Well, how about bowling around the wicket?" So just for practice purposes, I went around the wicket and I could get a footing, and I bowled it for quite a while. But
he bowled around the wicket in the nets at Old Trafford, and he felt good about something or other there. He obviously thought, "Oh, this might be handy, bit of variation in the game."
Richie Benno had come out of the back of the commentary box and saw us doing this, and I think wrote that we were hatching a plan to use this tactic. But I'd actually thought about it beforehand. On the plane over, I thought that I'd use that tactic, especially against John Edrich, if the ball was swinging, because he was a very good lever of the ball outside off stump, and I thought by coming around the wicket, if it was moving and I bowled my in-swinger at his off stump, it might be a little bit difficult for him, and so that was the main reason why I came around the wicket.
I seem to recall that he bowled Boycott in the first innings with a Yorker, big Yorker that swung. And of course, getting Boycott out of the way was always it was a hard, difficult task.
It was a bit of a mistake actually. I tried I'd been bowling some outswingers and they were a bit wide, and I tried to get one a bit straighter to him. It ended up nearly a full toss. He got a bit tangled up, went to hit it a bit too square through the onside and missed it, and he was bowled. Yeah, the first day was a bit of a hard grind. They were, I think, 7 down. I had 5 at stumps on the first day, and then got 3 with the new ball the next morning.
The nursery end. Let's look at this delivery. There's nips back there in the far end. No head ball. There is Rodney Marsh.
I guess my biggest memory, and I suppose the most exciting phase of the game for me, was the Saturday afternoon. We managed to get about 36 in front. We should have been more in front.
Not as many as I would have liked. And I wasn't into making speeches because I didn't think speeches did you much good, really. But I thought, I just needs a couple of words before we go out. I said, "Listen guys, just before we go, we lead by 36. I said, I'd like 1 wicket before they pass us, preferably 2.
And I remember Dennis Lillee coming up to me as we were walking onto the field for the start of the second innings. And he said, "Come on mate, we've got to knock off one of these openers before they pass us." We went back to 10, they were 4 for 25 or 4 for 29, something like that, and the crowd was going crazy.
So we had them 5 down by the time they got level with us. After he bowled an over, he got a wicket, and I said, "Well, you better keep going, mate." And then he'd get another wicket, and then another wicket, and he just kept going. And I mean, the atmosphere with the full house at Lord's, wickets falling, it was just incredible. It's doing your job. To take a wicket, take a catch, make 100. That's what you're supposed to do. I'm a batsman, I'm supposed to make 100. I'm a bowler, I'm supposed to get a wicket. I'm a slip fielder, I'm supposed to take a catch. And that's basically the reaction that you get. And I think you'll see in Bob, when Bob takes a wicket, you know, the guys sort of just wander over and someone might pat him on the back or well done, and then guys just go on chatting about whatever, you know.
When we didn't run around and do aeroplane runs around the ground and high fives and take each other's eyes out and stuff like happens today. But yeah, it was just the way things were, you know. I think that was, I don't think it was just, you know, the excitement was there and the adrenaline rush was still there, but we just didn't show it like, you know, perhaps happens today.
I've seen a picture of him walking off the ground, and he's got his head down. He's almost embarrassed that he's leading this team off. You know, well, you know, what the hell am I doing up? You know, why are you pushing me for?
And I guess when something like that happens, and you suddenly find out you've broken a record that stood for 90 years, and no one's ever done that before for Australia or whatever, it's a bit humbling. You don't go onto the ground to get 16 wickets, you don't go onto a football ground to kick 18 or 20 goals or 15 goals in a game. It just, those things happen, and they're not going to happen too often, if ever again. So it was more, you go out to do a job for a team, and it's more relief that the team is in a good position, or your team's going to win the game, and whether you get 6, 16, a dozen, you know, I mean, it's nice to have personal success, but it's the team success that counts.
At the end of the game, when we'd won, and bear in mind that Australia hadn't won, I think by that stage, we'd gone 11 tests without winning. You know, the dressing room was pretty up when we finally won this game. And Ray Illingworth, the England captain, had come out and said, obviously someone had asked him why England was struggling to play Massie, and he said, oh, every time Australia bowled, the clouds came over and the ball swung. When we were bowling, you know, the clouds weren't there and the ball didn't swing. Illy was a fine captain, but he always had an excuse for everything, Illy. Greg, my brother, he'd got hold of this, or someone had it, and they pinned it up on the wall, and Greg had written in this big black text right across the middle, "That's crap, Ray," you see, like that. Which is fine, I don't have a problem with that, except that they pinned the bloody thing right next to my locker. And at the end of the game, as is tradition, you know, Ray's come down to our dressing room just to congratulate us, well played. And he's come to me, obviously, first as the opposing captain, and he's shaking hands and chatting, and he looks up and he sees this thing there, and so he's gone and had a close look. And I'm thinking, and Illy and I got on pretty well together, you see, and I'm thinking, maybe we're not going to get on so well after this, but I did say to Greg afterwards, hey, listen, mate, next time you're going to write that crap, put it in front of your locker, will you, not mine?
I remember going to a function where Jim Laker, the great England off-spinner who took 19 wickets in a test match, said to me, Bob, there's 4,500 people on the last day at Old Trafford in 1956. He said, I've met about 30,000 people that claim to have been there that day, and he said, you'll probably find the same thing over your life. And I reckon I've met about, if there was 30,000 at Lord's on that Saturday afternoon, I reckon I've met them all.
And the amazing thing is 199 days after that, that was his last day of Test cricket.
Well, I didn't decide to end it. What happened was we went to the West Indies. There was no grass on the pitches were absolutely barren, and the new ball lasted about 10 overs. It was just shredded. I'd never encountered conditions where I couldn't swing the ball, or hardly at all. And so all of a sudden the ball was rendered useless after 10 overs. I then had to try and change my style subconsciously by slamming the ball into the pitch and trying to cut it off the pitch. And consequently I just lost the consistency of my natural action, which was to swing the ball. And so when I came back I started having technical problems, which eventually led to me being dropped from the West Australian side. And of course I didn't play another test match. I still played club cricket rather than probably go mad trying to get back, you know, what I'd had before. So I felt I'd had a pretty good run, and there wasn't any money in it either. I mean, you know, you had to sort of weigh up those things. Had a mortgage, and so it was time to sort of, you know, focus on my banking career. I felt that I'd got the best out of myself and enjoyed every minute of it. The mateship, the good times. We played some good cricket and had nothing to complain about, because there's been far better cricketers than me that have never played for Australia or never toured England, so I consider myself fortunate.